All right, guys. I want to let you know, I am recording this podcast with Anchor. It is amazing. I have delayed doing a podcast for a long time, just like not knowing where to start or how to start. And I found this app. It's free. They distribute everything for you. So like to Spotify, Apple, everywhere. It does it for you, and you don't have to do anything except hit the record button and get weird. So I highly recommend this app. In order to get it yourself, just download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. You're gonna love it. Do it. Hi, welcome to Awakened Divinity, a spiritual podcast by Tiffany Feedy. I am a channel, a spiritual alchemist, intuitive healer, and energy worker. And I'm really, really excited today because I have a friend joining me. Her name is Salina. She is a LBGTQ activist and a transgendered woman on her journey of spiritual awakening, and she advocates a lot and is just really blessing people's lives by her existence. And so I'm excited to have gotten to know her and to have her present with me and able to share her knowledge and gifts and spiritual experience and journey with you. So welcome. Thank you.
Thank you so much. What a beautiful introduction.
So tell me a little bit about yourself, however you want to share your beginning, your journey, your truth.
Yeah, I guess we'll talk about the spiritual reality. I mean, there's always different ways to introduce yourself. I could always say I landed on this earth or appeared in Montana and moved that direction. But the truth of it is that I was raised mostly in the South. And so where you're raised influences your spiritual perspective so much. I mean, when we're in the United States, it's going to be heavily Christian. And when you're in the Bible Belt, that's exactly what happens. So a lot of my early spiritual understanding of things were in a very conservative Christian framework. Now, each one of us is a spiritual being. And so wherever that divine's going to connect you, it's going to find you. And so the divine found me through there, and for a lot of years, that's where my formation was from. But it's like there was always something like that's just a little too restrictive. And, fast forwarding quite a few years, I finally realized that the restrictions from the fundamentalist community are just too much. And I broke free from that.
Get that dog.
And so once I broke free from that, I began really studying a lot more in world religions, a lot more about where Christianity originally formed from, and then expanded that out more into different areas of spirituality to see, what is the divine? What is the nature of our spirit? What goes beyond that which we can measure? I like to think of it as like if the whole world were in a snow globe, you would have the tools within the snow globe to measure everything in there, and that's what science does, and it's a wonderful thing, but it's impossible to measure outside the snow globe. So
I love that.
Right. So in the metaphysical world, it's not that something doesn't exist out there, but it's very difficult to measure. So you can't really prove or disprove. You have how it influences and touches. I mean, so if you're outside the snow globe and somebody taps on it, you could measure that impact of it, but you couldn't begin to understand what caused that to happen. And I think in people who are gifted psychics like Tiff, and then many of the rest of us, as you begin to understand how that energy works, you're able to see the existence of all things in a much bigger framework. It wasn't until just a few years ago that my transgender identity came to the fore, and there was a particular moment in which the divine was very specific about saying, "Salina, come forth." And when that happened, I thought it had more to do with my gender identity, but it turns out that it was, if not more so, my spiritual identity. And so over the past 2 or 3 years, the things that have been coming to me have just been amazing on my perspectives on what's going on, what's happening in the world, and understanding it. So I'm at a place now where I'm working to shine light into the entire world. I think the LGBT community is passionate, not only because I'm part of it, but because it's a group of people that are defined by and discriminated against because of love. And I find that the most ironic thing in the world. It's like, how do you look at a bunch of people that are defined by love and say, no, we shouldn't have that? And in the meantime, the rest of the world is going down a darker path.
Yeah. I love it. I love the way you shine. You specifically and the community just shine so
Absolutely.
vibrant and bright and colorful and magical. And that's why it's frowned upon, because people aren't ready for that. Some people, but those of us that are, man, like there's so much love and support, and I love to see what you're doing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. That gives me chills how you talk about that. When Salina came forward, it was more of a spiritual.
Oh, absolutely.
Rather than gender. And that's just
gorgeous. The messages are very different now. I mean, if you're raised in really any Christian mainstream or fundamentalist type thing, the idea of prayer tends to be you're almost a third party to it. It's like, okay, I'm asking God to do this thing. And so it feels more like a supplication, more like a child coming to a parent. Mom, will you do this? Mom, will you do that? When we move out of that a little bit and understand that, the energy that is really the essence of the entire universe, and that we're part of that, we're a focal part of that, a divine part of that, then you hear more, and I don't say New Agey, but the term of channeling that energy. So prayer becomes less a supplication and it is a connecting. I am connecting myself as a channel of that which is divine into seeing something good accomplished.
Yes.
So instead of praying like, I wonder if God's going to do that, there's that doubt there. And even in the Christian scriptures, that you pray without doubting.
Right.
And I think we lose that, or we've lost that. And now it's more like, I want to manifest. So I believe what I see, and I say to myself, this is the good thing that I want to see happen.
Yeah.
And so I channel my energy in prayer and say, not just asking the divine, but saying, I believe that you are going to do this good thing.
Yeah.
And then you become a channel of light in the world that way.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And I love that, because that it truly is. And it even is written in the Bible. And it, like you said, to have faith and really trust.
Right.
And when two people come together under God and ask, it's given. Knock and you receive. And it's like the awareness of the truth of who we are, how powerful we are.
We are
and
very
how
powerful.
how like these beings that we've looked up to look up to us for being on this planet, being in this time period. And when we realize like how we can create, and we can create beauty, and we can create joy and light and laughter and love with our spirit, then it's like, it's just a playground. It's just a playground. And like, again, the kingdom of heaven is within us. We get to create that.
Right.
And I think the whole gender thing is just, I love seeing children, and I love seeing TV shows where a young girl tells her mother, I am a boy, and then the mother is like, okay, and then just starts calling her my son, and it's like brings emotion to me, because it's so beautiful. It's like your heart. This is your heart. This is who you are.
Right.
I have a 5-year-old, and he I just really try to say, I mean, it's hard when you want to kind of control another person, but it's like, I kind of have to remind myself that he's a sovereign being. He's his own little person.
Growing.
And and he has to feel safe, and he has to feel confident in his truth. And my mom sews, and my mom is, she grew up in the South as well, and she's open-minded, but I think she's still a little more of the gender specific.
Oh, yeah.
But she's great coming along. My son asked her to make him a shirt, and he picked out this fabric that's all ladybugs. It's like yellow and pink. And at first she made just like sleeves, and he was like, no. And so she made him the full thing. Oh,
he wanted the whole thing.
Yeah, and she made it for him, and I was like, good job, Mom. I'm really proud of you. Like, you put his little heart and his little desires before your ideals of what he should want, right? And let him just be his little being, and let him feel safe and secure to just be himself. And it's just, that's our job, is just to allow that. And we don't have to be the ones to teach like, oh, the world's tough, and so you gotta learn, you might as well learn now. No, that's the world you're creating when you say that.
It is.
When you tell them the world's tough, then they grow up thinking the world's tough. No, the world's not tough. You create it. If you go out there with your heart open, it's going to receive you and you're going to get hearts back, right? That's the world. That's the world I believe in.
Right.
And I believe possible. And I see other people creating with me. And we're all doing that together now. So it's like, I get so like amped up about it. It's like the age of Aquarius again. And,
Right.
And it's just like, it's ripening and and I try to see I put my energy toward the good and the light and the joy rather than any of the other stuff. So tell me more.
Yeah, I think that one of the other things that I like to think about, and Tiff and I were talking right before we started the podcast, is this idea that, you know, the darkness that people are creating, or that we do this to ourselves. And I think there are a lot of thoughts that have come to it, but one of the things is that as we move more and more into modern society, we become so much more accustomed to technology and society infusing our lives. It's very difficult for us to walk through it and, you know, not turn on a light bulb when it's nighttime, not use like podcasts to speak to a number of different people. And so in some respects that distances us from not just each other, but from the very creation that we exist in. And so when we start to do that, that creates a disconnect. It disconnects us from other people, and it disconnects us from the ground and the earth and the universe itself. And so we become lost, and we start seeing all these dark things and dark places, and that fear manifests. And I think if we step back a bit, and then we begin to think to ourselves, you know, I am a created being in this scheme of world and things. I am as real as every person, every living being here, and really even the inanimates. I mean, we look at a beautiful Grand Canyon or majestic lake or this pond that I just enjoy going by and think, oh, how beautiful. Look in the mirror. Look in the mirror and say to yourself, you're beautiful.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that I learned, was to first look at yourself again and say, you know, Salina, I love you and you're beautiful. And I share that with a great many people, and it's amazing how many of us have a difficult time really looking ourselves in the eye in the mirror, saying our name and saying, I love you first and foremost. But when we do that, we become brighter. And as the world gets darker, our brightness begins to shine. And each one of us becomes a brighter star in a darker sky. But I think that helps us to see each other. And as people draw closer to a star, it becomes like our sun. You become brighter, you become warmer, and you become a life giver. And these are ways that we can look at the universe around us and understand that. So that's a concept that I have. And then, you know, I have a very strong science background too. So
I like that though. I love that about you.
Right.
It balances out, because I'm all out there, and I like to be grounded in the science and to have that knowledge and that.
And the thing is that, you know, a lot of people that are in the scientific world, they poo-poo what we're talking about today. You know, there's no chance that they're going to write this podcast. They're going to go blah, blah, blah. But the reality is that there is science beginning to develop. If Princeton University for a number of years has been looking at collective consciousness, which is like, so what is that? Well, that's like, you know, if Tiffany and I and 10 other people begin to start focusing positively on one thing, then there's an influence. And we don't know what the full impact of that is. We just know that there's an influence. And so what Princeton has done is that they measure entire societies. They measure the world, collective consciousness. And what happens is, in a major event, they see a shift in collective consciousness.
Yes.
So, I mean, it's very real data. Carl Sagan, who is noted for his, you know, I'm not big into the entire, you know, beyond measurable science type things, that there were two things that he said that there was enough information scientifically that warranted additional looking at. One of them was random number generators, which is where I'll come back to that, and the other one was reincarnation. Random number generators is what the Princeton University does. There are some people that are able to, for anything, like if you were going to flip a coin 100 times, or if you were going to just pull numbers out of a deck, they have the ability to focus and influence it statistically significantly. It's not like they can pick the same number all the time, but they pick it more times than what random could do.
Yeah.
And so what Princeton has done is they take a random number generator and it applies to the entire society. So when a big event happens, what happens is we collectively make a change in those random number generators. Mm-hmm. So it's an indication that we have that kind of influence. Mm-hmm. And then the reincarnation part is another that says, okay, there's something about us as an individual that is retained after this corporal body, goes mm-hmm. back to the earth from which it came. So if we come back to the energy thing, all matter, and I won't go into all of it, everything that's mm-hmm. solid in your eyes right now is really energy. Mm-hmm. It's mm-hmm. just a little bit slower moving than what the other stuff that would shock you if you touched it.
Yeah.
So as our mortal matter part goes back to the earth, there is some aspect about us that is mm-hmm. retained.
Yeah.
And then has the ability to go back into a mortal form again. Now, mm-hmm. how that happens, how often it happens, who it happens to, we can't really measure that. What we can say is that there are enough instances of small children with knowledge of places mm-hmm. too far away.
Yeah.
Very specific
mm-hmm.
things like it was in this house with this address inside this room inside this cabinet.
No,
it's just impossible.
Yeah, I know. And if those things, and you know why those things fascinate us? Because there's a part of us that knows there's truth to it.
That's exactly right.
And we don't, so we're fascinated by these movies that have all these alternate realities, or they have these experiences that are miraculous things, because we know in our deepest soul we've grown and we're not those small children anymore that just remember it, but we know deep in our heart that that's true.
Right.
And it's beautiful. Have you ever have you noticed, especially with this collective consciousness thing, so I'm all about that, when you really link into somebody and begin to open your higher perspective to them, do you notice having telepathic things occur where like I've had people where we both get the same information, or I think I need to tell her about this just as she's thinking wait for Tiffany. Just like these kind of experiences are almost happening more and more and more the more you pay attention to them.
Yeah, I think in my experience it's a little less as immediate as what yours is.
Mm-hmm.
What I found is that as I begin to focus on a certain aspect of my life, or a certain aspect of something that I want to see accomplished, those people come into my life.
Yeah.
So I have more images of particular people coming into my life, and actually you're one of them, right? So in this is the way I met Tiff. She was at a fair and had a booth, and I was looking at it for a while, and I waited until she was free enough to speak with, and I walked up to her cold, and I mean cold, not like cold mean, but cold. I wasn't going to give her any information about who I was to start with, and I wanted to do a reading on it because in my mind for some period of time there, I was looking for that kind of an affirmation that I was on the right path. So I was looking for that person, that spiritual person that's more gifted psychically to see, am I on that right path? And so I gave Tiff no indication she could see who I was, but apart from that, there was no background. I was from here. This is what I want. I just said I wanted a reading. And she came in and you gave a really very accurate, with some very specific truths about where my past had been, where I was currently, and where my spiritual world, where I was envisioning going forward. And so it was like, not that you were particularly like, oh my God, Tiffany gave me this truth that I needed to go do this thing now. It was much more a resonance. So when you're talking about connecting on that upper level, that would be a specific case. It wasn't so much that I was looking for something new. What should I do? Where do I go? But I resonated that quickly. You were able to pick up on a lot of very specific things.
I remember that. Usually I forget things, and that was a really busy day. I got the flu after that. Not actual flu, but the spiritual flu, because I didn't ground. I did so much energy, so many readings and Reiki, and I didn't take care of myself the way I should have. But hopefully I'll get to go back to that event again this year. I forgot to sign up, so it may be full, but we'll see. But I remember you because I remember you I remember I could see it. I could see like the Bible Belt. I could see that energy, and I could feel that that, and I could feel the scientific aspects of you and, and the contradiction, and then this whole blossoming other thing.
Exactly.
It was like all these
was amazing.
parts of you.
I know,
wow,
it was absolutely amazing.
Yeah, I know. I love doing that. I love, oh my, it's so fun.
Yeah.
It's really fun. I have a friend, I listen to her podcast, her name's Jessa Reed, and she does a lot of twin flame readings, and she does a lot of soul, like deep work, and so she gets into like trauma and struggle, and I like get all the cool stuff. That's cool stuff too, but I notice I get like a lot of I get a lot of joyful stuff, so I'm pretty lucky with that. But I've had the other stuff too, and I've had I feel emotion too when I feel. So sometimes people it's so much love that I feel that I want to cry, and I love that aspect. I get to connect to people.
Yeah, very empath.
It's such like a beautiful way, because I'm as this person that I live in. One of my things I need to work on is at some point I like blocked myself from allowing myself to cry for sad things. Like if I can watch a movie and it could be really emotional, or music will make me cry.
Oh, music does it to me all the time.
Yeah, but like if something, I just don't, there's a block. There's something there that I need to release, and whatever. It's a protective thing, and I'm sure it happened in the last number of years and whatever. So we'll figure that out. I'll get there. But what I love about doing readings and connecting to people is that can be triggered, and I get like a little release out of it, because I feel other people's emotions, and I get to cry, and it's like, oh God, I haven't done that. That feels so good. I love it. I like to feel that. And there's sometimes you feel people and you just feel their heart, but they don't even know it. I feel like you are awesome and joyful and loving and great, but you have no idea. You just walk around hating yourself.
Yeah,
well, and so many people love you.
That's where they come to that mirror thing.
Right.
You gotta look in that mirror and say, I love you.
Yeah, like, how uncomfortable is that? At first, you're like, and why is it so uncomfortable?
That's my point exactly.
Why is it so uncomfortable to love ourselves?
Well, this is where we have to break free. And if there's an awakening, this divine awakening, it has to start right there. You have to understand that a lot of who we are by the time we get to this point in life has been programmed in. So your mom has told you things, your dad has told you things, your friends have told you things, and pretty soon you begin to experience the world in the way that it was told to you. And you experience the world in the way our society's advertising, the way the school, whatever, and I'm not being judgy, I'm just saying whatever school system and what you were taught, whatever religious organization you were taught, these are all things that are programmed into our subconscious. It's what we do as humans. We have to have something in a framework of the world for us to operate, to know what's dangerous, what's not dangerous. But it goes beyond that. And I think once you come to an awakening point and realize that I can redo my programming, I can go back into my past and say, this is not healthy programming. If I can't look in the mirror and say, you are an absolutely beautiful human being, and I love you more than anybody else in this entire world. And it's not narcissistic, it's just identifying my love for myself is where it's going to radiate that love to others. If I can't love myself first, imagine a star if it couldn't generate the light enough to say, I'm bright myself. Wow. It's very difficult to shine to somebody else. Yeah. So I would, if anyone took anything away from the podcast, I'd say, you look in the mirror and say, I love you, you're a beautiful human being, and I care deeply about you. And if you can't say that in the mirror, then you need to be looking back at your sub-programming and say, why can I not say that? Yeah. Is it my body image? Then who told me my body image was wrong? Yeah. Is it my mental my mental ability? I can't do this. I think, why do you say I cannot do this? Say you can do this. And that begins to reprogram. And there's so many wonderful books out there, but it's the simplest start. Yeah. It really is the simplest start.
Yeah. I love it. That's beautiful. Have you ever done any soul journeying? So what you're describing, this going back and loving yourself, it's a shamanic practice. Right. I have this book called Soul Journeying, and it's, Alfredo, I can't remember his name, but my teacher, Amber Poole, she gave me this book, and she's been doing a lot of shamanic work, and you go into, a meditative state, you go in sort of to the underworld,
right.
and then you go back to these different chambers of your life, and you heal them, and it's like a very healing thing. But a lot of there's other like timeline work, like you find that one, did somebody
right.
tell me, and
right.
then you kind of journey there in your head with this empowered, beautiful, lovely, life-giving Salina, and you go to that younger child and you visualize like embracing them and whispering in their
right.
ear and loving
right.
them, and it alters the present moment.
It does.
It's crazy.
It does. And again, there's good science behind what you're saying about this sort of thing. Well, there is science. I'll say that. There's good science as far as linking it. That's where a little bit of faith comes. But with time, when you begin to understand that time is time is relative. I mean, that's a known thing. But there are a lot of studies that are showing that there are influences immediate. So what Tiff is saying is, like, if I go back and mentally reconstruct my past, and I say to myself, say I become my own parent, and I look back at my child self, and I say, I love who you are. You are an amazing young person back there, and if you're doubting yourself right now, I don't want you to doubt yourself. And it really becomes empowering on a couple of fronts. So on a very just psychological front, what you're doing is you're going back into your actual physical brain memory and reformatting that so that negative spot in your mind is no longer influential in your present. So there's the scientific, if you want to go a step further than that, and this is where I would go, I would say that you're not only doing that, you are actually redefining that past moment so that influence of time now is also being negated and put into more of a positive context that way.
And you're also influencing the other individuals, because when you switch that past, then you switch how you have reacted to them this whole time.
True.
And so you're shifting their life in a greater positive way, but it's not in a way where you're causing chaos or anything like that. It's just shifting things to a more high vibration state. But have you heard of Neville Goddard? Because a lot of what you're talking about is So feeling is the secret. And the pruning shears of revision. Like, you can go, and I got all my Neville Goddard info from Crystal Ann Compton in the Lightworkers Lab. Like, man, I've learned so much there. And so she always talks about Neville Goddard. So I've gotten his books, and I'm like, oh my God, this is everything.
Right.
This is it. And then there's Eckhart Tolle, and there's so many beautiful.
Out there. Yeah.
But so Neville Goddard is very much about the subconscious mind, the conscious mind, and then the emotion all coming together.
Very powerful.
And in your dream state, really, so you can relive a conversation with somebody that was, you go into your dream and you replay your day, you go through your day, and any parts that you alter them, right, to more love and light. And then you replay that over and over and over, the day you wish you had to when you fall asleep. That's the day that your subconscious mind remembers. Right. So then the next day, let's say you had a fight with your sister. The next day, your energy toward her isn't, we had a fight. It's, we had a really awesome communication and we came together in a loving way. Maybe we talked, but it came out. Right. So like then the energy you're going toward them isn't like, oh God, she's going to be mad at me and it's going to be awkward. Instead, you're going in it with this love and that alters them because they're probably in a state of preparedness, but because they receive you in this love and peace, it shifts them, and it's so powerful. We are so powerful. It's like, dude, it's awesome.
We're very powerful, and as far as the timelining type thing, there are a couple of things that I've done along the way, and one is like what we talked about is going back and reflecting upon those times and trying to redefine those memories so that they come out in a more positive outcome going forward, because it also influences what's yet to come. I can't tell you what that is, but I know that it's more positive. Yeah. One of the things as I was making this transition journey in gender was that I had a very strong image of having been in a swamp and then a desert and then a canyon and then a wide open space and then to be a light on top of a mountain, as it were.
Oh, I like that.
And as the 2 or 3 years have evolved, this has become very tangible that this was the path. I was able to move out of the swamp. And the desert place was, as many of us that are on spiritual journeys, you get to a spot where you have to have your alone time with the divine. And you have to reconnect the way you are. You're custom made. You're custom built for this world right now. And that's another thing. It's like, you're supposed to be different. Yeah. You know, we have shared experiences, but you're supposed to be different. So don't get upset with yourself because you're different. In fact, if anything, embrace that part of who you are. You're that custom brushstroke in this masterpiece.
Yes.
You're that one piece there. Just don't compare your brushstroke to everybody else that way. And so once you get out of the desert, then for me, it was this canyon and say, you're going to have to go through a narrow place. And it's a deep and dark, narrow place. It's not going to be comfortable. It's not going to be easy. You're going to need to make some decisions to leave a bunch of stuff behind in the desert. Wow. And that I think probably more so than any other spot in our spiritual journey is where people get lost because you don't want to let go.
Yes.
And you have to learn to let go of things that were so important to you emotionally or spiritually. And like for a case in point, going back to the when I had to break free from the fundamental Christian point of view, I thought I could still retain friendships with other people, but I learned that was impossible because it was easier for them to let go of a friendship than it was to let go of an ideology that had defined their life. Yeah. And so that was a real life lesson for me about how powerful your view of this world is that it will cause other people to not be in your life. So I had to let go of a lot of personal baggage to get through that. Now I'm in a much wider space, and once that has happened, people like Tiffany and others in my life have now started showing up as other lights. And that light, as more lights come towards you, it becomes brighter. Yeah. And so white space, and there's still some journey, and I still have, just like, you mentioned your dark spots, there's still some shadowed areas that I'm still working on. And that's another thing. It's just because you have shadows in your life does not mean you're a failure. Right. You've got to redefine that. Yeah. It's like our life is a long journey. Yeah. There's no human being that's been on this earth that's like, I've got absolutely no dark shadow I have to deal with at all.
I know. And if we truly love yourself, you're looking in the mirror loving yourself.
That's right.
You're loving that self.
That's right. That's part of who you are.
It has to be. Otherwise, we'd all be floating in space. We wouldn't be on this earth.
We'd be ethereal beings of light. Yeah.
Exactly. And we're not made of light. No. We're made of light, but that's not all we're made of. And we have to honor the truth that we're made of beings that can be angry, that can be whatever, it's just it's totally a normal.
Well, it's like what you said about anger is that it gets too often categorized as a negative emotion, and it's like it can have negative impact, but the emotion itself is not a negative emotion. The emotion itself is part of who we are. It's okay to be angry. It's not okay to hit somebody with words or flesh or pieces of stuff. But like what Tiff was saying, you redefine that argument with your sister and say, okay, it was an angry moment, but I still love her deeply. Yeah. And I was angry about a situation, an intangible in many respects, or something that can be fixed. And so I come back to my sister with a great deal of love and said, we were angry with each other yesterday. I want to let you know I love you. Yeah. And we've got this thing worked out. And you're bonded more closely. Yes, but it's not a negative emotion. You just work through a positive.
Yeah, it's energy, it's emotion. It helps release. It's a part of releasing. Right. We need to release that. Another thing about, like you talked about the desert and walking through the desert and people get stuck, that I feel, because I do Reiki and I see people who have, when you don't allow yourself to make the moves or pay attention to the things that need to be let go of, certain things can cause physical ailments.
Oh, they absolutely do.
It manifests spiritually, emotionally, and then it's like, all right, you're not listening, so I'm going to show up in a physical way. And there's all different ways that things can manifest. So, like, really trusting that higher truth and releasing. And, like, I have this knee problem. I had surgery, and I know that this year is going to be a big year of change and like
a lot of us are feeling that. 2020 is feeling like a very significant year for a lot of people. Significant. I think so.
So I know that once I know that the knee right now is painful, but I know it's gonna be rapidly heal, and I know like once like something happens, there's gonna be like a big shift, and then it's gonna be the pain. It'll be as if I never had a problem at all. I just see that happening, and so I'm okay with it. And so I'm just like, it's getting better every day, you know. And I just know it's like just an inner knowing, and not, you know. But I don't sit around and not, you know, do the steps because I don't want to be suffering in the moment. So I do all the things that I'm supposed to do to assist it. But I can see the bigger picture, and I see where I've not let things go, let ideals go, let stuff go. And again, and you know what? It's also being okay with, well, I know that I'm on that journey, and I see you with your signs, tarot cards, and whatever. Okay, I know. And you're just like, I'll get there. I'm working there. But I just continue. And then I have moments where I am like radio silence and I'm just...
Oh my God, yeah.
And it's okay.
You just get that. Yeah.
And I just sit there and I'm like, all right, I'm just in a little bubble now, and I'm receiving and I'm growing. And then I have this one friend, she's going to be on the podcast, and we often call each other and once a week, and we just channel. We just go, we ask each other questions, we channel some being or some energy, we talk and we answer it, and it's like, oh, all right, I'm back, I'm there, I'm connected. Or I do like readings in the lab, I'm like, oh yeah, but for me, I'm just like, no, you need to just lift your leg up, read a book, put in some earbuds and meditate, and just like be and I don't worry now like about really anything. I just flow with whatever season I'm in. That's just the season I'm in.
Right.
And there's times where I'm like, manifest. I'm doing the 2-cup method. I'm like creating. I'm doing my gratitude rants, and I'm like, I'm writing out my future and as if it is now, and I'm doing all that. And then there's times where I'm just literally present every single moment and not even thinking about any of that, and just like, all right, you know what my vision is, so whatever. I trust you, universe, God, and me, God in me, and I trust that if I keep my vibration lifted, then it's gonna happen. Because if I'm at a vibration where I am meant to have joyful people and positive experiences and abundance in my life, if I'm a vibrational match to that, and if I believe that truth, and I know it'll happen, and I just follow the signs and allow it to occur. And I know that there will be moments where I'm not a light, floaty ball of light, so I'm a human in this reality, so there'll be times where I'm not a vibrational, I'm just, whatever. And but I don't beat myself up about it and stay in the darkness or whatever, because then that's where you can lose yourself and get in all the self-loathing. I had that. I was in the process. I'm in this spiritual awakening, but if I yell at my son, I'm beating myself up for a week about it. And guess what? Now that I've come to this other place with it, I have now am better to just speak to him and say, look, I'm a little bit, there's moon stuff happening, and I'm a little bit irritable, so let's just be aware that it's like we need to calm our energy and be respectful, and I just know that I'm on like this edge, and I'm on this edge right now, and I'm just going to tell you that now. And then it's like he receives it. I don't have to get to like the edge like, I don't have to do that anymore, but that's because I stopped hating myself for it. It's just that healed it somehow. Stopping to hating myself and beating myself up about it. Added more self-love, and then I'm filled with more love and light, and so I'm less irritable. It's just...
and that's another one of these places where there's good physical science and spiritual reality to that. Now, Joe Dispenza's, he's a lot further on this, but the idea is that, in a very physical sense, like worry and fear are emotions, and they're not bad emotions, but if you saturate your day, that's all you're doing, then your body is built to, the worry means that there's a concern coming from back in primal times, like, oh, I'm not so sure about that animal.
Yeah, right.
And then fear, oh, that animal's coming at me. But what happens is then that animal goes away, and at that time our body says, okay, you're good.
Yeah.
All those adrenaline and chemical things going on in our head that tensed us up and got us ready to go away. And then there's a release and everybody laughs and, woo, that was close.
Yeah.
And then off you go. But in today's society now, we saturate our bodies that way. And so the body is not balanced chemically anymore. And because it does that, all the positive chemistry in our body then goes away. And so things start to happen, and I become ill, or this joints aren't working, and I don't nutrition myself well. And there's a whole nother topic, but I don't put good food in my body. And then the next thing you see, oh my goodness, I've got this sore, I've got this thing. Oh, and then there's another thing to worry about, another fear, and you accentuate this. So coming back the other direction, if you say, okay, I've got this, my body heals. I have an amazing body. Our bodies are incredible.
Yeah.
And I'm going to start giving it good nutrients, and I'm going to start moving it a bit more and not be so sedentary. And then you begin to say, oh, I'm feeling better. I'm getting better. And you have a physical. Spiritually, this does the same thing, because as we're talking about now is that energy is not this negative energy. You're more optimistic. There was one analogy once that said, if I told you to look around the room here and say, look at everything and tell me everything you can see in 30 seconds, I do this with people that's red. And so there's this moment, everybody looks at red, and then you come and ask and says, so how many green things did you see?
Yeah.
And people go, well, you didn't ask me about green. I said, well, that's my point exactly.
Yeah.
And so if you're looking for a negative thing, you will find the negative thing, and you're going to act on that fear and negativity. If you're looking for a positive thing, you're going to find the positive thing. Now, that doesn't mean that if you're looking for a positive thing, something bad is not going to happen.
Right.
Someone might rear end you.
Yeah.
You may have all the positive energy in the world, but do you let that then define who you are?
Yeah.
Likewise, of the negative thing, a good thing might fall into your lap somewhere along the way, but if you're constantly in that negative state, why would you want to be that way?
Yeah.
Or you might not even notice it.
Yeah.
It's like that old adage, like, oh, that person's so negative, they complain about a pay raise because they'd have to pay more taxes.
Right.
But you've met people like this.
Exactly. Yeah. They just live in that spiral of negativity, and
they really do.
And they wonder why.
And it damages relationships. It damages work environments. It damages family environments. It's really, really a bad thing.
Yeah, but a lot of times people that are like that, it's not their fault. It's because they were built and
programmed, right?
Yeah, and it's like, because then they can see all this stuff, and then they think, oh my God, it's my fault, and I'm negative, and now I'm terrible, and blah blah blah.
Right.
And then it's like, no,
you gotta go back to the mirror.
Bad.
You gotta get back to the mirror.
Gotta get back to the mirror.
Yeah.
And just like I have these certain character traits, and I'm aware of them, and I darn it if I love them about myself now.
That's why I'm my unique brushstroke. Right? That's who I am.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm okay with it, and it's gotten me to the place where I am, and I mean, I've had a lot of crazy stuff, like trauma and suffering, and a lot of it on my own hand. And so there's so much beating yourself up. Like I was drinking a lot, and I found myself in really bad situations in my 20s, like really bad.
Yeah.
And so anytime something like that comes up now, if a memory pops up, I just kind of imagine myself like looking at it and sort of like I kind of brush it away, I let it go, and I activate, like I just say, okay, I see that that's still there, and I release it, and I just and then so I feel like sometimes all different things will pop up now and again, and it's like, ooh, and I'm peeling away the layers, and I'm releasing all this stuff so that the things that I allow to remain, because those things may have something to reveal to me. So I'm also aware, like, okay, you are coming up, you affected me in a certain way, so what do you have to show me? Okay, all right, thank you, and then like let it go, sort of thing. So everything, it's work, but it's not hard work. There's so much self-awareness. I love looking into numerology because I find that so impactful and powerful and interesting, and astrology, all of that's like, and there's so much, so interesting. I've always been like interested in astrology, even when I was younger, and then to realize like how, like if you do your whole chart, you're like blown away at how wherever the planets were, wherever you were born, at what time you were born, and it really does like show. It's like a gateway for you to again know yourself a little deeper.
Yeah.
But that's like a complicated. There's like tarot. You got to know all that. There's so much about tarot. Like I don't know what all the numbers and all the symbols. You know, like a 5 of Pentacles. Someone would be like, "Well, that's blah blah blah." I'm not there yet on tarot. I'm studying tarot. I think tarot's really. Yeah, I intuitively read tarot cards. I look at them and I just get what messages come through and do it intuitively. But there's a science to it, and I don't like to discount that science. So there's a really specific, cool science where people study tarot and really understand it and know it, and it's really neat. And there's so many forms of divination that have been going on for centuries, right? Like runes, people using runes and divining from spirit, and it's even in the Bible. So I don't know how we got onto that. I just found my way to talk about psychic stuff. I don't know how that happened.
Yeah, a couple of things. I mean, you're more versed in a lot of this. The numerology intrigues me mostly just because the mathematics is really the purest of the sciences.
Yeah.
I mean, it has a very concrete way of measuring that which we experience here. So the idea that there are influences that can be determined by numbers is intriguing. I don't know, again, where that shift into the concrete within my snow globe and that which is outside, I can't be sure, but is it influential? I got to think there probably is. For me, one of the things, and it's related to astrology, is what I'll call astral rhythms. I mean, I haven't heard it called that, but it's my term. I'll call it that right now.
I love it.
And so it's that, again, we are, as a human species, we evolved over a very long time. We are part of this earth. And a lot of people speak of it as Gaia, as a living being. And I'm working on now is trying to reflect upon the earth as a living being of her own. And, she births all of us into this life experience, and her life over the 4.5 billion years of existence has been formative and long, where ours is just like, boom, brief. It's here for a moment. But because of that, our species evolved with the moon working in a certain way, the sun working in a certain way, the seasons working in a certain way, and the rhythms and cycles of life are such that there's a very consistency. And again, we live in such a mechanical, scientific, and really much faster paced world than what human beings were even 100 years ago or 1,000 years ago. And so I'm like, what is the influence of the moon cycle is a big thing for me right now. How does it, it's a little odd that a woman's, menstrual cycle is coincident with that moon. Maybe that's coincidence. I'm not thinking so. So how is it, that summertime influences a certain way? So if we're born in a particular season of the year, how does being born at a particular season of the year affect me? So if I'm a brand new baby and I'm born in the cold of winter, my life experience is that by the time I'm 9 months old, it's summertime. Or what if, like me, I'm born in August? So I'm born as a warm summer baby time, and then I watch fall come in for my first few years. And so these cycles of life, and water is another thing that I think is a lot more powerful than what people give credit to. And there's some science on this too. And
have you heard the water experiment, the Dr. Massimo?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
My own little one, and I had it on Facebook not too long ago, was that I baked 2 pans of brownies, and I did one with straight tap water.
I saw that.
I saw that one, right? And I
Very
did the
cool.
other one. I have like a little Brita filter to put the water in, and I played music like what we have going on quite a bit in the house. Not exclusively, but quite a bit, and I have a lot of positive energy. So this other water had been sitting in my house for a while, and the one was straight out to tap. I baked the 2 brownies, and the one with regular tap water was, not a bad brownie, but it was flat. The one, and the only difference was that 1/4 cup of water. Everything was exact same stuff. The other one was like an inch taller and fluffier. And when you look at that, it's like, well, all the all the stuff you filtered out. Maybe.
Yeah.
I'm sure that's part of it.
Yeah.
But, again, the energy of it. And as Tiff was talking about, there's been some studies about the impact of that. Now, if we come back to say to ourselves, what is the essence of physical life on this earth? You have to have sun. You have to have water. The nutrients are there, but it's intriguing to me that the water. Why those two hydrogens and oxygen atoms put together in the way they do are the essential aspect of life.
Yeah, right? Yes.
So
and
there's more to it than
there's
just that.
so much to it. And when you really have like a reverence for it,
right,
it tastes different. It
does.
feels different.
It absolutely
and
does.
then that water, it's being connected to your water because you're all water.
Absolutely.
It's so important.
Absolutely true, right? Yeah.
It's like you're just giving yourself more and more life as you drink it.
Right.
I love this. So I take my water bottles and I write affirmations on them and I write symbols on them and I bless my water and I do all that. And I have this GT's Blue Kombucha, the 25-year anniversary Sacred Life. So it has the flower of life all over the bottle. And I swear, and I didn't think of this until I took my first sip, it tastes better than any other kombucha I've ever had. It tastes better, and I swear it's the flower of life symbol all over it. I mean, it has blue spirulina. It doesn't. It's like got ginger and coconut water. It doesn't have that much going into it. It doesn't have some fancy ingredient. The blue spirulina certainly doesn't taste good normally, but this kombucha tastes better, and I really believe in that, in the sacred geometry, in that energy. And so the 2-cup method for manifestation that I learned listening to my friend's podcast, is you take, you have 2 cups of water and you have one where you write your current life situation, whatever, you're not happy with.
Right.
And then the other one, you write what you want. Okay, and you have water in this 1 cup. It's just the whatever one, right? And then you pour it into the other cup. After you've looked at these and you've thought about them and you really put energy into it again, because emotion is really important. Feeling is the secret. So you want to get your subconscious mind, and you don't want to have any doubt. You don't want to have go into it after you've had a fight.
Yeah.
So then you drink the 2nd cup of water, and you just know that that's the energy you're drinking and that's what's going through. And so I've done that a lot, but then I started to realize, I think that I'm already in a pretty good timeline and I don't know if I want to mess with it too much.
Oh, right, yeah.
I kind of, because you jump timelines that way. You dimension jump almost.
You do. Yeah, you really do.
Yeah.
That's the creating reality part again.
Right, exactly. And quantum physics, that's an actual, that's a scientific thing. There's a better word. There's a more sciencey word for it. I'm not the sciencey one, so I have you at the table. So I love to do that with the water, and then sometimes I take a break. I'm just I think I need to stop. It's not forcing the manifestation, but I'm just sort of allowing everything to come to me now.
Well, this is the rhythms that I was talking about too, and I think way back in the day they had the biorhythms, and there's probably something to it, but there's spiritual rhythms, like what we were talking about. There's times where you're peaking out at I get all the information coming in, and then it gets in that quiet spot. There's time to reflect. Time to let go. And for me, it's the new moon is the time where it's just, okay, now it's time to reflect on it. And you start working your rhythms, and you just have to discover them. I think that's really a lot, and it's going to be a little different for you than me, than anyone else. And I think that's really where you got to become introspective on this and say, what are my spiritual rhythms? And that's exactly what you're talking about. And,
yep. I like that. I'm eating a muffin right now, guys. It's paleo. It's blueberry and gluten-free oats and coconut sugar. So it's a healthy muffin.
Right, there we go.
So wait, let me see how much time we have. Let me check. All right, 53 minutes. So, is there anything else that you want to touch on before we wrap up today? Because we have time.
I don't know that new, but if anyone's listening to this, I really want to come back to this idea of loving.
Yeah.
And it really, you have to, your entire spiritual experience really has to start with loving yourself.
Yeah.
And there are so many people out there that are are dwelling in an environment where people are telling you you're not beautiful, you're not smart, and there's a great despair. And if I'm trying to bring light into the world, and Tiff's podcast is one of them, look in that mirror and talk to yourself and say, you're a beautiful human being. This world, this universe brought you into life just as much as any beautiful creature, your favorite pet animal, the beautiful birds that are outside, the scenery, the landscape. You're part of that. And you need to shine. You were meant to be here for this period of time. So start there. Start there and say, I love you. Say your name up there, Salina, I love you. Tiffany, I love you. Whoever you are out there, you say that and start there, and you will start on a journey that really will change and shape your life.
So, Salina, how can people find you if they want to? Or are there any resources that you have for...
find me. I don't know. I think you can Google me. Salina.
Well, if maybe if anyone wants to reach out to you and connect with you in any sort of way.
Yeah, I think Facebook's probably the most ubiquitous. I know a lot of the younger generation that's like the old people's, but hey, I'm headed for old people land. I'm trying to work. I am on Instagram.
All right.
But yeah, if you look for me on Facebook, just cold. If you don't know who I am, then it's there, and then I can work something else out. But
awesome.
Yeah.
So Salina Brett on
on Facebook.
Okay,
right,
cool.
Sure. That's probably the easiest.
Or find me, and I can link you to her. So if anyone wants to reach out and learn from her experiences or just send her some love. You can find me at tiffanyfeedy.com if you want to book a reading or an energy work session or coaching. And then you can also find me on Instagram, Awakened Tiffany Feedy Divinity. I think that's the name on Instagram. And then on Facebook, I'm Nature Spirit, or my name is Tiff Feedy, because if you go on Tiffany Feedy, that's my old account, and I don't even know the password. I can't figure out how to get on there. I'm sure I have 7,000 messages, but anyway. So thank you all for listening, and super excited. Salina, thank you for coming. I can't wait to make a date to play with the hedgehog.
Right.
Lily,
you gotta come over. Yeah, you gotta come over and see Lily.
Oh my gosh. I just want to.
I know.
So cute. They're so cute. All right, guys. Thanks a lot, and I will catch you later.